This is a special presentation for the Bleav in Pro Wrestling podcast. Here's Rick Ucchino on the Bleav Podcast Network.
What is going on, you guys? Rick Ucchino here for SB Nation and the Bleav Podcast Network. Got something special for you today. A few weeks back, I had the chance to take part in the virtual press tour for Heels Season 2, premiering Friday night, July 28th on Starz. Finally, after 2 long years, fans are going to finally get to see all of the fallout from the State Fair main event that, spoiler alert, saw a grown man crap in his gear, and Bunny Bombshell shocked the entire town of Duffy, Georgia by winning the DWL championship. I had the chance to catch up with Stephen Amell and Alexander Ludwig, as well as Alan Maldonado, Robbie Ramos, Trey Tucker, and Mary McCormack, one of my favorites. We chatted it up all about Season 2 of Heels, which again debuts July 28th, Friday night on Starz. And this is brought to you by Bet Online, our good friends. We would not be here without them. Use our promo code Bleav, BLEAV, and get your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Sign up today at betonline.ag or by using your mobile device. Bet Online, where the game starts. Do me a favor, give us the old thumbs up there. If you're new to the channel, like what you see, hit that subscribe button as well. We greatly appreciate the support. Now let's kick things off here with the 2 big stars of Heels Season 2, Stephen Amell and Alexander Ludwig. The audience has been away from Duffy for 2 years now, and giving the shocking events that went down in the season finale, you know, people are excited to see what the fallout is from the crazy booking at the State Fair. But I got to feel like for you guys specifically, it's exciting for you guys too, for people to finally see it, because, you know, shooting wrapped up a year ago at this point.
Yeah, we've known what's going to go on forever. We just decided to wait 2 years to give it out to the public, you know?
Yeah. I don't really know why but listen, we're coming, and it's great.
Yeah, I think what happened is I think we basically like missed a window by a couple of weeks in the fall. So it's like we're not a January, February show. We're a summer show. So they just waited.
Yeah, sure.
But it's you know, I would really encourage people to catch it up. Like, I know that I should get all this information. I know that the pilot's available on YouTube for free, but you should catch up because even though we have taken a break between the first season and the second season, in terms of like airing it, the actual storyline takes place seconds, basically in the immediate aftermath of when we ended season 1.
Yeah, and there's a lot that happens. Alexander, specifically for you, your character arc this season is absolutely insane. From, you know, where we last left you, total conflict with your brother, absolutely ticked off. And over the course of this, you know, season, without getting into many specifics, you really start to see Ace kind of grow as a person, you know, reconcile maybe who he is as a person with who he wants to be as a person, and also has one of the more disgusting scenes I've ever seen in a season of television. So, I mean, you definitely ran the gamut on this one for sure.
Dude, when I read that scene, I was dying. I was brilliant.
So was I.
You know, that's always been what I've loved about Ace, and I really appreciate you saying that. You know, he is a very flawed human being, as we all are, and I love exploring that. Ace, you know, this show is just as much about identity as it is about family, and as it is about mental health. And Ace is going through his own identity crisis since season 1, and now you kind of finally start seeing him lean into who he was always meant to be. And that's a really exciting thing. And I think in parallel to that, you sort of see Jack do the same thing from a business standpoint as well. You know, suddenly these guys, you get an inkling of what this actually could be. And you kind of, for the first time, I think in Heels history, you start to see the road to success. Granted, there's going to be a lot of obstacles along the way, but I do think that for the first time, you see what a massive promotion this really could be on a national scale.
You know, yeah, and just real quick, Stephen, and you know this as a wrestling fan, I think where this series really excels is the fact that sometimes the storylines that are going on outside of the ring are more compelling and, you know, kind of bring the audience in more than what's going on inside of the ring. And this season really nails on all of those levels.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and look, listen, you're seeing it in professional wrestling right now, both in AEW and WWE, where the sort of the if you find the right marriage between the backstage politics and the in-ring action, that's really the sweet spot, because that's going to bring the best out of the performers. And when you see real genuine emotion displayed in the ring, that resonates with the audience, and both in the arena or the dome and then the television audience. And so, that's where you want to cook in professional wrestling. And I think we do a nice job of that this year. It was really, really fun to have to, for Jack, who wants to do everything on his own, not just to allow other people to help him, and those people, of course, being Ace and Stacy and Bill and Willie and all the boys, and of course Crystal. But the fact that he has to then work in partnership with Gully and Rooster and the FWD, and that he's forced to, it's just like you can just see it destroying this guy. And ultimately it doesn't end that well for him.
Mm.
And as a guy who grew up watching Guts, it's insane to see where Michael O'Malley is in this show. It's absolutely insane. One thing I've noticed watching this show over the last 2 seasons now is the in-ring action is really top-notch quality stuff. Like, how much training and preparation went in for you guys to not only act as professional wrestlers but be professional wrestlers in this series?
Man, it was intense, man. 6 days a week, 5 a.m., in the gym, 2-a-days. The training starts months before we even start filming. And then throughout filming is the challenge of not just maintaining your physique, but then you got all this good food roaming around, crafty, haunting you as you try to stay in tip-top shape. But ultimately is to be able to have the stamina and the ability to just go in the ring and do as many stunts as we're allowed to. And, again, really represent wrestlers in a way and really showcase the hard work that they do on a regular basis. So I would never want to play any of that short in respect to them.
I think this season I try to get in the ring a lot more than I did that first season. And just learning, running back those basics. The first season I was thrown into the wolves. Like 1 week before the show started, I find out I'm cast. So I kind of had to throw myself in. But this time, and being a little more comfortable with the guys we got as stunts, Luke Hawks and Perry. Perry got in the ring with me quite a bit this season, and that was fun, man. Getting to feel the ropes and those burns on your back, man. It was cool.
Yeah, I just showed up and did it, man. I was ready. You know what I mean? No, it was no, man. Look, it's intense. Like, you can't. That's the thing. You can't do that. You can't just show up and be ready to go, because you could do it, but it's going to look terrible. You're going to get hurt. And the guys who do this for a living, they're working on it all the time. That's why they look as good at it, as good doing it as they do. And so if we mean what we say and we want to respect the industry of wrestling and what these guys put them through, we got to show up and do the same thing. And it's worth it. Because one, like, what kid grew up in the and didn't want to jump off the top rope at some,
Sure.
So there's fun to it. That's where we kind of all come and hang and socialize when we're filming, is in the gym and the ring. And but it's work, man. It's a lot of work, and if anything, it makes us respect these guys who do it for a living even more.
And the moves and the staying in shape and all that's one thing, but if you don't have a good story, wrestling, it's going to fall apart. And one thing that this season of Heels is not lacking on is stories. And one thing that I've noticed with each one of your characters specifically is, as you're going through season 2, you guys are really kind of tasked with each showing a downside of the industry. Like Trey, for your instance, we're talking, career-ending injury potentially, and having to deal with that. You're winning at life in this season, but as far as getting back into the actual ring, that's something that your character is struggling with this season.
Yeah. I mean, we were saying to somebody else, I think that's one of the cool things about this season. season one was such a great foundation for these characters' stories. And then in this one, we kind of get to see, like, we got to learn about the industry in the season one, and this time it's like we're learning more about what the industry does to the lives of the people.
Yeah.
And I think that was a great, I mean, a terrifically rewarding thing to explore in terms of character work. Is like, okay, what happens when you're not in between the ropes, and what does that do to your life? And there's a whole bunch of different examples of the way that experience can go in all of these different character stories. And it's just paying homage to what these guys and what these men and women go through to this thing that they love, So it's fun to explore.
Robbie, you kind of, your character explored the end of the road there a little bit, and what happens with these guys after the glory days are over and they still have to live the rest of their lives.
Yeah, man. Dealing with that side, the dark side of this thing, right? Yeah. And where it ends. The two actors who played those parts, the ones you're talking about, and getting a feel of that whole side of this thing was something kind of eye-opening for me.
One of the things that I really appreciate about Heels as a TV series, as a longtime fan of women's wrestling, is the storytelling as far as, women's wrestling as a whole, from the old perception of, they're just there for pillow fights and to make their male counterparts look better, to nowadays where it's, if you just give them a chance to shine, turns out they're going to be your biggest stars in the industry potentially. And I think that is a story that transcends wrestling, obviously, but it's so well done here in Heels as well.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I mean, I was so excited that Heels was tackling this season, both because what you said, like, it's actually just rich and fun and dynamic, and people love to watch women wrestle, but also because it's realistic. Like, it's silly for us to do a wrestling show without that. I think when we first started the show, I was sort of like, there's something missing. It seems odd that we don't have a women's division, but I love the way it sort of unfolded. Like, I think it's very believable. It's a tiny town and a tiny sure. Division of independent wrestling. So I believe it, that there was no money for that and no, resources for that. But I love how they open it up. I like how it happened, that it sort of happened by accident, and that then they're faced with this issue of, how do we sustain it? Like, how do we, we can't have her being beaten on by men every week, and we can't have her beating up every single guy every week. Like, both won't work. So what do we do? And then that combined with Willie's passion and, I think the dreams she missed out on, like the fact that she never got to wrestle. It's like, she's the perfect person she comes alive, just comes alive. So, her becoming Crystal's mentor, her starting to book matches, and, starting the women's division, I think is a really fun part of season 2. Certainly it was fun for me.
Yeah. And hell of a talent scout, that Willie, because if you're going to build a women's division, right, you could do a lot worse than Kelly Berglund, who I think was a breakout star in season 1 for sure.
Incredible.
Yes, amazing. I absolutely amazing. I can't get enough of her
in the ring. Like, yes. She doesn't skip workouts too. That girl is in. She came, I think, knowing very, very little about wrestling, and was like, I guess I'll start working out a lot. And like, she's jacked now and does way more in the ring than I think the insurance guys are happy with.
Yeah, well, I would love to see her, like, actually show up and pull a Stephen Amell and wrestle a real match. But the other aspect of that is you're adding now AJ Lee, AJ Mendez to this cast. In my opinion, one of the greatest women's performers of all time. What was it like to get to work with her and bring her into the DWL?
Yeah, so great. I mean, and CM Punk and stuff. It's so cool when the real wrestlers are, first of all, they're all good actors, which should be no surprise. And they are all like total pros. They whine a whole lot less than us. These guys they make us look so soft.
I was going to say, but like, this seems to be a lot more of a normal thing now, as professional wrestlers kind of just making the natural progression over to acting, which kind of seems like it should have been a no-brainer a long time ago.
You're right. And it's storytelling, it's storytelling is storytelling, and being engaging and holding an audience captive. And they're excellent at it. And they're used to a lot more hard work than we are.
Yeah, and you talk about storytelling. There's a lot with Willie in this season, a lot of backstory. Like she is the superstar, the behind the scenes superstar of the DWL, and the thing would literally fold without her. And we find out how literal that statement is this season, but also like she's just an onion. There's so much more there to her. What was it like for you to kind of really explore that and pull those layers back this season?
Yeah, I really appreciate how they wrote her, how they continue to write her. I love that she's, sort of a hot mess at home. Not sort of, is a hot mess.
A hot mess, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's some pretty dark moments. And I just love that, because I think it's wonderful that, like there's a sort of tendency sometimes in lesser writing to have the women characters be the moral center of the piece, and they usually know right from wrong, and like they're hard, they're good at their job, but have a soft heart. And like I love that she's just more human than that. I love that they wrote her excellent at some stuff and sort of really shitty at other stuff. Like it's brave to write a woman who's not a great wife and mother. It's brave because it makes people go like, ooh, it's hard to watch.
Hard to watch. For sure. And, final question here, because we don't get to see you in the ring a whole lot, but you not giving anything away. We saw a glimpse, like a little bit of a glimpse. Was that really you jumping off that top rope there? So what was that experience like?
Oh, really fun. I mean, I want to get in the ring.
Yeah. All right.
Would they let me at my age? I'm not sure.
Age is a number. It's all about how you feel. It really is.
All right, good. We need to get you ready on the show. Yeah, I want to get in the ring.
I love it. I would love to see it happen.
What Willie missed out on. She wants in.
Exactly. Season 3. There we go. You could fight for the women's championship with Crystal.
Michael Waldron and Mike O'Malley. I hope you're listening.
I hope they are too. I love Mike O'Malley. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.